I just saw Barbie and it was actually pretty good, so I decided to break down the plot with some holes I found as well as some parts I thought were actually pretty cool. But first I want to get this out of the way. On the surface, this is a kid's movie about plastic dolls, but I do not want that to be a deterrent in my breakdown. You do not cast Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, and Will Ferrell and pass it off as a kid's movie from the bottom to the top. It's more than dolls. We all know it's more than dolls, so let's just get that out of the way. There is plot here, enough to stir people up, so let's talk about it. In Barbie's perfect world, women rule the world in different variations of female role models, and are introduced in a vibrant, cinematic, and fleshed out community. The Kens are almost mostly subservient, as Barbie points out later. She doesn't even know where they live, so they hold no power and mostly have no purpose. Barbie Land is separated from the real world until Margot Barbie starts having some feelings of sadness, depression, which mostly revolves around the thought of death. Also, apparently her feet don't work anymore, which I find kind of funny. So Barbie has to confront her cliche outcast character, Weird Barbie, sending our hero on her quest to find her human that is giving her bad energy. And so far, Ken is like the world's biggest simp and hijacks Barbie's quest for him too to go to the real world. And the only way to throw Barbie's world completely upside down is to create an extreme toxic male society. These first few scenes when they cross over from Barbie Land into the real world is really eye-opening. Margot Robbie is overwhelmingly sexualized for 15 minutes straight, and we as the audience are supposed to see it through her lens and her experience to feel her pain and frustration. But in order for this plot to work, every piece of toxicity needs to be ramped up like 1,000-fold. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it wasn't supposed to just be Barbie's point of view. But maybe the dialogue we all heard was supposed to hit home for audiences in separate bursts. But it doesn't end there. There's a lot of corporate culture involved, with Will Ferrell leading the charge, and this arc was honestly my least favorite. It was comedic relief at first, but frankly, they could have done without it. I understand it's supposed to represent the disproportional of corporate culture and male-dominated society that keeps women down. Again, though, they had to take this up 1,000 degrees for an extreme point of view. So Barbie tries to escape back to Barbie Land because the board of Mattel wants to ship her in a box. Also to Barbie Land. I don't know that part. That part was weird. Barbie is then rescued by supermom America Ferrera, who apparently drives for Formula One with the assistance of her daughter. The next hour or so of the movie is where I find the most random flaws. So Ken ends up learning about the patriarchy and brings it back to Barbie Land, and the Kens take over and form it into a frat house. And the Barbies are just automatically subservients. All the ones that were doctors, presidents, lawyers, all just become servants. So Margot Barbie, America, and her daughter come back to Barbie Land to see the chaos unfolding, and she is devastated. This is the crisis point of the film, and where Margot Robbie is at an all-time low, as her perfect land is turned upside down and the Kens have taken over. So America, along with her daughter, like Sasha or Sabrina, I didn't remember her name. I thought she'd be a bigger character. She just wasn't. Together, convince the Barbies that the stereotype of being a woman isn't how you should live your life. You do not live to serve men. You do not live to serve women. You do not live to serve the Kens. Society wants you to be perfect without ever trying to be, and you have to fight that. This snaps Barbie out of her depression and gives her confidence back. And then they go around doing this to all the Barbies. I mean, Margot Barbie was just in the real world, and yes, men were in power, but there weren't a whole lot of examples of women being servants. Actually, there was a more real scene of a man, the guy from Sex Education, being a servant. So, I don't know. Which is why the whole Barbies automatically serving Kens just seemed a little random. But at the end, they steal Barbie Land back from the Kens. What comes after is a huge fight between the Kens that references D-Day, which is actually really entertaining. Then it turned into a musical number full of a bunch of Italian references, which was pretty weird, but fine. Meanwhile, the Barbies steal back Barbie Land, and hey, it's not over. This movie actually has like 6 endings, actually like 2 or 3. Then Will Ferrell shows back up, like an hour and a half later, and wants to continue to use the Barbies to make corporate profit, except they stray away from what a woman should be and just to the idea of a woman just being herself and selling that as a doll. And hey, apparently they make a lot of money, as they say in the movie, so good for them. So boom, they win. Then Ken confronts Barbie about not having a purpose and such, and wanting to fall in love with Barbie because he feels that is his only purpose, is to be with her, but she doesn't want to be with him. Barbie don't need no man, so she basically told him to fuck off. Well, not actually. She tells him and the other Kens to basically go find themselves. The one thing I would have included would be a final scene of them getting their own houses, because the first thing they did when they took over Barbie Land is pimp out the Barbie dream houses. So like maybe if they got their own houses at the end, it would not only answer the reference to Barbie not knowing where they live, but it would give them some sort of purpose and meaning where they can have their own originality. But it didn't happen, so maybe in Barbie 2, The Revenge of Ken. Then there's Barbie's ending, Margot Barbie. where the founder of Mattel shows up like a force ghost to make Barbie a real girl. Barbie ends up becoming a real woman, goes to the real world, probably lives with America Ferrera, and goes to the gynecologist. The end. So let me start from the top. The blatant misogyny as portrayed in this movie, it is pretty cringe and honestly a little tough to watch and makes the audience feel uncomfortable. But maybe that's the point. I mean, Barbie feels uncomfortable basically the entire movie. Everything she thought she knew about society was wrong. So it kind of put us in the feeling of uncomfortableness with her, which I kind of didn't realize while watching the movie, but now looking back on it, I can see that. And lastly, with the Mattel, should just ended after that first boardroom scene. I don't understand why Ken and Barbie didn't get together. It kind of made it seem that having a partner in this world was a bad thing. America Ferrera has a husband, but he's just docile and actually has 0 English lines. It is implied that being with someone holds you back and gives you rules and expectations controlling your life. That was my biggest takeaway from it. And Ken at the end says it's supposed to be Barbie and Ken, and then Barbie wants to break from that norm. But people are talking about this movie a lot, and it has garnered a lot of controversy. I feel like I'm seeing almost more people talk about this movie than Oppenheimer, and I guess I'm kind of contributing to that. So with that being said, there were a lot of different opinions and takeaways. And again, that's kind of the point of this film. The audience isn't supposed to all feel and see it the same way. And with all the different takeaways of this film, it's gonna draw controversy. I do encourage you to see this film, whether you get the chance to see it in theaters, but I can tell you one thing, it is definitely not made for kids. The trailer lied to you. Sorry, moms. Let me know what you thought about the erupting volcano that is Barbie and its biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.